Alrighty, we are back and live, and oh my goodness, a bunch of chatter already in the chat. Welcome back, everybody.
I
Episode
love it.
95 of Leonis Support. This is good. We were hoping for some turnout, but JB, first and foremost, welcome and hello as well. Nice to see you again on this Monday. I've missed these with you. How's it going, man?
Honestly, same. It's I mean, the Mondays have gone by, and this has become like such a something we've just been steady with it for a couple years now, basically, and not knowing what to do with my Monday nights was a little bit odd for a couple of weeks, but yeah, it's makes this episode special and exciting. So glad to be back.
Definitely. We were actually kind of sad about the content strike. Obviously, we're going to talk about that and a whole bunch more. But before we do, we were talking about how we were lamenting that the Leoner support might have ended on like a soft, quiet, just dagger in the back, like never again to happen. And we did feel optimistic though that we would have another Leoner support. Just didn't exactly know the timeline. But before we get into the deep and heavy topics, man, how you doing? Why don't you catch me up? How's life going? How's everything?
Honestly, I mean, not a ton going on. I mean, had some good family time. Had some good time with the wife. We went out to a Celtics game and had some fun. Went downtown and other than that, just been working. And the weather has been getting better here in New
Oh,
England.
so
And
nice.
got outside and played some baseball with my son. Threw him some pitches, threw the ball around. So yeah, life is good. How about yourself?
Same. The weather's been incredible. I just had a wedding this weekend for my cousin, and so I am still needing one extra good night of sleep because boy was the tequila flowing on Saturday night. But wonderful time and gaming has been great. I've been playing the Suikoden or Suikoden, however you want to pronounce it. 20 years later, I still don't know how to pronounce it, even though it's like my favorite JRPG of all time. I've been loving the remasters there, so I've been playing those so far. Honestly, War of the Visions, despite all the drama, has been exceptionally fun for us. Guild Wars and Supremacy and a whole bunch of stuff. The PvP has been really fun. So even still, like the game has been like a daily thing for me. But the rest of it, Overwatch, Final Fantasy 14, Genshin Impact. That's my wheelhouse. That doesn't change. I'm just looking to get outside a little more now because I have been inside for far too long this winter.
Same. I actually I've always said Suikoden. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the proper way to say it, but that's how I've always pronounced it.
Yeah.
I
And yeah,
picked
it's,
it
it's
up
on
as
Steam
well
right now. Yeah, it's
for
on Steam. Someone just asked.
yeah.
They remastered. Yeah, it's out for like a week now. Go get it. Yeah.
I want to say it's even on sale right now for the Steam Spring Sale, and Konami
Nice.
has like a big like sale for most of their games on there. So that's I think you can get it for like I want to say $47 rather than the
Worth it.
60. Um, So I started playing that and started remembering how much I really loved the music and the soundtrack from that game. It was really top notch. I'm not too far into it yet, honestly. These days, I've gotten to the point where I'm sitting down on the couch with these games and I'm sitting there reading and I'm just like I'm just gonna fall asleep within like 45 minutes, almost guaranteed. So I have to take them in bite-sized pieces. But yeah, loving that
You know,
too.
it's so funny you say that just on the JRPG convo, where like I obviously remember this very fondly, but as I'm playing through it right now, it's a lot simpler than I remember, and I'm actually progressing a lot faster than I remember. Like certain events that I remember being like really big events and really big speeches and quotes, as they like scroll across the screen, it's rather like uneventful at this point now, and I think that like goes to show how far gaming has come in the last 15 years, or 20 years, at least since like my start to where I am now, where we've been kind of spoiled with like all these grand soundtracks because it is a good soundtrack, but it's like a 16-bit whatever soundtrack. It's nothing
Yeah.
orchestrated, and it's funny seeing it now like compared to other video games, just how simple. That's the only word I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing it through like a different set of eyes at this point
That
than when
too.
you were a teenager and things like that. So some of the story beats maybe don't hit the same, or you've just played that same story or something similar to it, 10 times since then. So it's you're more jaded,
Yep.
at this point in life. But still, it's very nostalgic, and I think that I'm gonna continue to enjoy it. I've actually never played the second one either, so I'm looking forward to diving in and learning what happens story wise with it.
One is excellent, but I do think two is better of the two. just the way it builds. But
Yep.
we'll do another podcast this weekend and another night, I guess. But to kind of just give a rough outline tonight, we are not going to cover a lot of the stuff that we normally do. Obviously, with the Leonis support, we tend to look at like news updates, kind of give some thoughts and analyses, and I am technically personally still on the content strike, and I know you kind of wound down some of your content anyways, but I don't know. I think we're both kind of still in alignment there too. That tonight we didn't want to consider this content. We still want to have a discussion about an important topic that we have not really had in public yet. And obviously, those in chat as well to kind of have this catharsis with you and everyone kind of come together and talk about it live too. But we are going to focus primarily on the state of the game and the paid packs and what's been going on and what our predictions are, thoughts, feelings, literally all of that and more. And over the same hour or hour and a half that we normally do. But we can at least start with a recap here if you want. You want to talk a little bit about what's happened and reviewing the catalyst that kicked this all off?
Yeah, so basically it's what has it been? Maybe approaching 3 weeks now since this initial catalyst event where we had our pack H cycle that we've been kind of accustomed to now for almost a
Almost
year,
a year?
like
Yeah.
maybe 9 months to 10 months. But it's been with regularity that between 4 to 5 weeks there's been a pack H cycle where they'll refresh the three pack H's as well as a couple of other bundles with some skip tickets. Actually, I always bought that one because
Yeah.
the skip tickets are pretty ingrained in me in this point, and we don't get them from Hiroki's gifts anymore, unfortunately.
Nope.
But all of that stuff was gone. Basically, all of the bundles though were gone. Like all the stuff that just for topping up, like some of the weekly bundles that would be or monthly bundles. Just for what we call the rack rate, and then also like even the daily Viz bundle, which has been a staple for many years now. I think even from the early months of the game, where been one of the best buys, since then. You get 490 paid Viz, and then you get 100 Viz, free Viz, for the month. So roughly 3,000 free Viz as well. So, there's been no communication as to why that stuff was taken away, but that kind of led to our response, and again, yours made a video about that, going on strike, and that's kind of where we left the Leonis report as well. I think we kind of talked a little bit about it when it first happened, and then when we saw that they weren't coming back, that's when we went on strike there.
Definitely. And my strike still continues. And I never once really thought that, like, oh, I'm so high and mighty and so important to the game that if I go on strike, they're going to know I'm serious and mean business. Like, I don't think that was ever my goal. But I do know that, like, Justin watches the Leoner support, other people of the team do. And we've never really come out with any strong opinions on much. We tend to have, like, a tempered perspective on things. But this is one that, and let me just, like, share this 1 second. I have like a really dumb small TLDR of why this was important to me. Why can't I share the screen? Hold on a second, guys. I'm so sorry. Should have had this
We're
set up ahead of
working out
time.
the rust over here.
I'm a little out of practice. Been a little while. Yeah, this is so simple. This is literally like the TLDR of why I felt passionate about doing the content strike was simply that it's something that really made a lot of the whales mad and dolphins included, but the whales are the the primary revenue driver of the game. And if they get mad and if they leave, then the game dies, and that makes me sad, and I don't want that. So that this to me, my content strike was really about my personal opinion about the longevity of the game. That I thought the decision they made, and not only anecdotally how it I know it affected me as that population, but we have lots of friends within the game, and we're very tied into the Discord and the top end guilds, and seeing the other whale reactions. That it's hard not to extrapolate that and see that this is kind of the writing on the wall if you really hardcore piss off that group of people. But War of the Visions has gone through its own tumultuous times where they did kind of upset whales at various points, where I think Road to Worldwide is kind of one of those. And even when they implemented new systems here, I remember the reincarnation system even then was like a big one for whales, where now it suddenly felt more pay to win when it came to high scores and PvP battles were obviously, it's always kind of pay to win in a sense for the game, but now you're really like paying for the extra stats, and that does have a trickle down effect. So this is not the first time that this has really occurred, but this was like the most simple. Like, oh my god, you got us used to a certain payment threshold, and now it's gone, and now people are mad, and people are leaving, going on strike, going free to play, and all of those things in year 5 of the game was troubling to me, and so I felt justified to say, no, this is the one thing I really do want to put my foot down, and it's not because I think I can make a change, but it's because it's the only power we really have. We really don't have any power as consumers. And so, hoping to kind of like speak on behalf of those spenders who I believe help carry the life cycle of the game, I thought it was kind of important. And so, we're going to talk about that tonight. I guess a little bit about the strike too, and if it's going to continue, and how I feel about it, how you feel about yours, if you are in one. I know mine was a little more official in a sense, but yeah,
And just to kind of to tack onto to your points there are still bundles in the shop, and the shops haven't completely closed down. Um, and even some of those bundles, continue to be better than stuff than you can potentially get on the JP side, with
correct.
the 5,000 paid and 5,000 free for what is it, 79.99.
Yep.
Um, and that's fine, but you got, like you said, we've gotten used to a specific price, and it's been about a year now. And even before that, Pack H existed, and there was, we also got upset during Road to Worldwide when they disrupted, how the spenders kind of interact with the game, and the monthly spend, um, and that caused a big rift in the game as well, and we kind of hammered them for a while. So, this is kind of reminiscent of that in many ways, and there has been some development since then, though, that I think we should kind of go into next.
I will actually, but before we do we want to talk a little? I just want to touch on the lack of response again, where
Hmm.
I do agree. The lack of response is something that we look for. To us, it's something as simple as an in-game notice. But we've even mentioned there's a social media team, like there's an Instagram page, there's a Twitter page. Does it kill them to put out a statement, even if it's very vague, to at least like let the community feel heard? I know Justin on Discord has confirmed many times that he like takes down the information, but we never really know where it goes. At least I feel like if you get a formal public communication that does something to smooth some of that over. But even then, I don't think a lot of people would be satisfied with that. But I do at least know that, like, when it comes to the response time in this game, I feel like they've also always been very slow. So I know we're like kind of still waiting here with week 3 in. But if I recall, like, I think even when like Offer Wall happened, it took like 3 weeks to a month for them to actually put an in-game notice. Because I remember I was very like tight-lipped because I was waiting for the response from the developers before I actually made a statement myself. And I think even when it came to the Crim Guild, that was the big cheater guild, there was like weeks that they were so. This has never been a fast responding game anyway, so I know it seems easy to us, but in fairness to them, they've also never been a fast response team. So I think in my head, I'm still waiting for that in-game notice because I know it's usually right around now that they tend to put something out. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw one tomorrow.
I think that's a good point, because I mean, some of those events that you're referring to were when the global team was at full strength. We had the dedicated team. They presumably were, we had live streams going on a fairly regular cadence, and there was a lot more interaction to the community. But despite of that, when those sort of hot topic events came up, it did take very long time to get anything back, or even some semblance of a response. So the feedback loop has always been pretty broken with this company and this game. Um, and that's been an issue for their other games like FFBE, and I never played Alchemist Code, but I'm sure maybe similar things went on there as well. So at this point, it does feel very similar to Road to Worldwide, where, like we said, we complained for weeks on end, and we actually really never got a formal response. They just sort of implemented the stuff that we were complaining about back into the game. All the packs that they took away or changed, and even they went above and beyond that, and then implemented that pack H stuff. A few months later. So I tend to look at things like glass half full, just like you. So there is part of me that's, thinking that, maybe there could still be something coming, but um, I'm not completely holding my breath there.
No, no. And segueing to what you already brought up before, they already have done some things in game that have led to some theory crafting of what's actually happening. And I think the very first thing is talking about Falsette and her release, where there was a brand new deal for her that it was 2K paid and you get the unit at level 120. And a lot of people thought that Nickel was kind of the precedent for that. I argued that it wasn't, though. Nickel is a 70 cost unit. It was the same deal that JP got. So Falsette was a very unique global deal. And even then, Falsette being 100 cost also is a commander unit. So there's a substantial increase there in the value, too, that this was definitely unique for global. And then they came out back to back weeks with a 2K paid option for her vision card, a hollow vision card, which is brand new for us, not for JP. So clearly and this is where all the theory crafting comes in to say, and we're going to talk about this more about conjecture, but they at least did something in the short term. They didn't do nothing. I consider that something, and still I'm kind of like on eggshells because I don't know how permanent it is. Is it a one-time thing? And we'll obviously explore that a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to take that from there? Anything else you want to cover about Falsette or even O? We have a little bit of an inkling. I'll just flash this real quickly. In the release notices for O tomorrow, this asterisk says that he can be acquired from guaranteed from a free 10 time summon, and this is the same exact language they use on some of the free collab units like Bart's and Paying. So there seems to even be a brand new way to acquire a unit tomorrow, not just the 2K paid. It actually looks like there's a guaranteed banner, which did not happen in JP. And I'll be honest, I can't remember this ever happening for a unit in global outside of a collab unit like Bart's. So there's definitely some weird stuff going on.
The closest sort of precedent that I can think of would be, and I agree, this stuff has never happened, and it is very strange because it didn't happen in JP. These were full priced units in JP, a full priced vision card. So clearly there had to be some thought there or some discussion with their team to say, okay, we're taking a different approach here for global, and we can talk about the why of that later. But um, like I said, the closest precedent that I could even think of and remember was with Luell, where she got a very special sort of deal for global, after kind of being a dud over in JP and not having much of an impact in the meta. And that was a discussion here when she came out. A lot of people were talking about skipping that unit because I want to say like she was right before a collab or something big. And we had that foresight, of her not being a great unit. But they gave her a huge, like, you basically got all the shards, I want to say, on like a special step up for global, and that kind of came to mind a little bit with this unit. Although this was a much better deal in comparison.
Yeah, I'll be honest. These actually are very good deals. I guess we'll talk a little bit more on our hot takes and throughout our actual opinions on them. Although we can talk about that now too. I don't know if we
Yeah.
have a yeah. I mean, me personally, I love this deal. Quite frankly, I love what they did for a Falsette. If this is the precedent that they're setting of permanent pool units getting a 2K paid option to get to level 120, I'll be honest, that is far more economical than Pack H is in terms of getting a unit to 120. You get far more bang for your buck in terms of getting all the extra shards. You can basically 140 them for free because of what you can do with the soul medals, and you get a free full bingo board out of it. And it also personally aligns with something that I've really not liked about this game as of late, which is the how slow it takes for a unit to get up to speed for some people. You get this fun dopamine hit. Oh, I pulled this unit, great, and then it's like, well, I have to wait 2 months to use it. And I that was cool at the beginning of the game for a little while. Not cool, but you know what I mean. But as now, all this time in, as I'm playing more gotchas, it feels bad to pull a unit and not be able to use them right away. But something like this, where you can basically insta use them the moment you pull them, basically, where it's not a hard lift to get them to 140. You can even use rainbow mind spheres to get them to 140, even though you don't have to. The bingo board should cover it. That like philosophy of getting a unit and playing them and letting your money go into reincarnations, let your money go into the collab stuff, go into buying extra shards in the shops. That to me, I think, is a healthy spot for the game because I think people want to play with these units at the end of the game, at the end of the day, and let us use the Visior on more things like reincarnations and pulling for a commander unit that you may never play and things like that. So it actually aligns personally with my philosophy of getting a unit out of the box and using them pretty quickly.
I would agree with that. It felt very, I mean, on the one hand, I'm a whale and I would day one 140 units often anyway, but being able to do that at such a economical cost um, felt really, really good. And not only the bingo, but you could also get the shop gill shards. So it was a completely free 140.
Right.
You had 80 gill shards in the shop, 100 and what is it, 120 from the bingo, something like
Something
that.
like that. Yep.
So 200 right there got you from 120 to 140 plus some reincarnations. Um, so yeah, I basically spent zero viz on that unit, and she's already like, approaching completion, after I got some soul metal stuff and doing the hard quest and stuff every day. So very good. And then, followed up by the Hollow Vision card, which had been a 20K to pity, has been a huge sore spot from the game. Of course, we couldn't use um, our stars on them as well for a while. Thankfully, that's back. But getting that as a vision card right away, not having to wait to hard quest it or anything to finish it was also a nice deal as well.
I agree. And actually, this Alicius in chat just brought up a good point that I want to touch on. That saying $40 for a unit does seem like a lot. For the spenders in the game, though, that's actually absurdly economical. Right now, if you let's say pack H, if you were to buy two of them, so that you could pull the unit for the what is it, the 12K paid that they give you, you're now spending $100 to get a unit, but that unit doesn't have all the shards that a level 120 unit does, and they don't have all the Alchris, and there's a lot of stuff missing in the 12K pack that getting a unit at 120 already gives you value of for far less of the price. But in the rest of that sentence that Elysius brings up, which is a really good point, they got rid of the step up. And so for spenders, this is an excellent deal, but for the non-spenders, losing out on that step up is a big negative, and I do think those are the people that likely would get hurt the most from this. I know we have a bullet here for like the impact on spenders, and I know for like thinking about the math of this, I you think of like pack H refreshing every month, 5 weeks or so, so you figure $150 every month. I'll just make a nice easy number. Well, let's assume you spend $40 a week to get this unit and/or vision card. That's basically the same revenue stream. You're not getting nearly as much from like a paid viz perspective, but in terms of getting a unit at 120 and getting a hollow vision card at max, not having to pity them, not having to get the extra shards, you actually make out like a bandit for how much you get for these 2K paid for this unit for the vision card, way more than what you get for the pack H, where you lose, and you lose big on not getting the pack H, is the people that use that paid viz and didn't go get units. It's those people that use that paid viz for the special bundles, for the special banners, for the weekly stuff that reset, that you could get paid viz very cheaply, and you could wait forever to get something like the 5th anniversary where you paid viz select 3 units. Those people that use the paid viz for that purpose do lose out on this, which is a legitimate loss, I think, for people that play the game in this style. But for those that play the game to say, I pull the unit, I use the unit, I pull the vision card, use it, this is far more economical for them, but not for those people waiting for the special bundle. So I think that's where you say like not everyone is a winner, and I easily acknowledge that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the story is not fully written there yet. I mean, we haven't technically had like, I mean, since they've kind of taken away the pack H's, we haven't had a significant event like an anniversary,
Right.
like a collab coming in that they would typically offer those kind of special banners that are, maybe free to play friendly or just cheaper in general. Um, so we have to kind of wait and see what's going to happen with Final Fantasy IX to maybe come back and circle back on this conversation a bit. And even what they're doing with O, it is a departure from JP as well, because he came along with the Dark Leviathan Vision card the same week, which
Correct.
is a Dark Esper, very costly to pull. So we don't know how they're going to approach that specific item, which I think out of everything here, Falset's VC, O, and then Dark Leviathan. I think Dark Leviathan was probably the biggest target for the majority of players. I think, and even at that, was probably going to be a skip for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then oh sure, like you'll get him tomorrow for free, but you're still gonna have to get all the shards to max him out. That's gonna cost you a ton of Vizior still, less than it probably would have cost you just pulling them randomly off the banner. Obviously, it's gonna be cheaper in a vacuum than trying to pull him on banner, taking him to pity, then get all the shards. It's still gonna end up being cheaper. So I almost think it's like a Vizior trap in that sense, where I think they're probably trying to entice people to use their Viz to get shards for a brand new unit they wouldn't normally have gotten otherwise. I know that's kind of like a popular gotcha strategy is using that player psychology against them, where you give them something for free and then they're a little more incentivized to maybe throw some resources at it, as opposed to if they just released them on a regular banner tomorrow, a lot of people would probably pass and wait for Dark Leviathan or wait for the anniversary. Now all of a sudden people might have that devil on their shoulder instead. So this actually kind of segues nicely, I think, to the conjecture portion of this, like why some of this might be happening. And I know you had this bullet here second, but you can talk about this first if you want to continue that line of thought.
Um,
That's an idea.
Sorry, which one? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I mean, this was a thought that I had, and I know I've seen other people discussing it, in Discords and even on some other Reddit posts as well. But you know, one potential theory of why all this is happening, the taking away of the packs and kind of the juggling around of what they're doing with the banners, is that they are maybe testing some different monetization methods for units that are going to be clear skip units by global players. We do still retain a 1 month window into the future, on the global side. And in a lot of cases, it is enough time still to get a good gauge of what the unit can do and how good they are in the grand scheme of the meta. So I think a lot of people were already targeting to pass on Falset. She's only been around a 1% play rate over in JP, even less. As well as the vision card, I think was kind of a swing and a miss. I think that we talked about that on the podcast, a few weeks back when it first came out. Um, but if you give the players a cheap unit, they might then be more enticed to grab that 2K vision card and say, okay, I'll grab it.
We did.
And
We were going to pass those for. Well, I mean,
yeah,
I know you typically don't pass on things, but I know I was going to pass. I bought it. Yeah,
so maybe they're kind of doing some of that. That's one potential theory.
agreed. And I actually meant to say this in the beginning, but I feel like this is an important point. The whole point of the strike was never that like I only want pack H. What we wanted was an alternative means to play the game and acquire these units, other than just getting done raw with the $99 bundles and getting the 6K free and the 6K paid. We refer to that as rack rate. You'll hear us use that term a lot. It's basically just the off the shelf, what's the bundle rate. They had got us accustomed to package for so long. The strike was all about give us a way to play the game that's not just the bare bones vanilla pack cost. We're this late into the game. We know that the revenue streams are going down. We know the player base is not growing exponentially. Don't do this to this now. You've already got us used to it. And to me, this does satisfy it, giving a unit for 2K paid. That's far cheaper than what I would have had to pay to get false set for pack H. And I would have skipped that unit, even if I had pack H. But they gave me an avenue to get this unit. So this absolutely falls under my umbrella of like, let me pay you. I want to give you money, but not at the rack rate. I need something in between. And I think this satisfies it. The question is just, is it going to be consistent? Which is why we just don't have enough information. It's why I haven't called off the strike. It's why tonight, although people might say we're making content, we're not actually making content tonight. It's really more of like a open discussion. But I do agree this could be a test of the different monetization methods, and I'm honestly open to that. I think this was a good one for some of those positives that we mentioned earlier. But I know some of the other conjectures here. Like one of them was that this is like a gift leading up to the 5.5 year anniversary, kind of an unofficial recognition of Global's fifth anniversary. I personally don't think there's a lot of water to this one because
Yeah.
I think you could have still kept Pack H and still done this. It was truly a gift, but I'm also more
I,
skeptical than that.
I think also like if it was a gift, if it was something that, like a grand gesture, th- they've always been, more than willing to announce that and say that that's what it is with
Yeah,
either like a banner or like something of that nature. But I mean, that said, like I don't think if we are getting O for free I don't think you can deny that that is a gift to us in
correct.
global. And you know, uh, a lot of people were planning on skipping him, despite him being like a pretty decent unit. And now they're going to have the opportunity to build him for much cheaper. So
Totally.
uh, that is nice.
Yeah. Um, I'll just keep this going here. The third one we thought, this one that I thought of was personally that they're holding back these bundles during this period so that people don't buy the bundles and hoard this paid viz and stock up for things like Kuja or stock up for things like the fifth anniversary. And this isn't rocket science. A couple podcasts ago, we had a hot take, and my hot take was the game's about to see a huge dip in revenue. And that was a hot take purely based off the roadmap. So they clearly see it the same way that we do. I could easily see a scenario where they looked at units like Falset or Vision Card O and probably thought, hey, if we release Pack H, people are going to buy it, but they're not going to use it. And then they're going to use it during 5th anniversary to get all of this stuff for much cheaper than what we intended. So let's not do Pack H. Let's instead give them these units for cheaper. And when the anniversary rolls around, they'll get Pack H again, and then all is right with the world. I could easily, and I honestly see that as the most likely, to be honest, where they didn't want to give away something too cheaply right now, knowing that people were going to hoard it for a while. And obviously, that's going to hurt those players that were going to do that. But that makes the most like dollars and cents to me if you assume the game is going to continue, which is a different question.
And I think another thing that we'd kind of talked a little bit about, maybe more on like Discord, but you know, the team is looking at the game revenue wise from most likely from like a quarterly perspective. Like that's a
Yes.
typical business
Keep
way
bringing this up.
to analyze that.
I'm so
So
glad. Yep.
at this point, like quarter one was pretty much it's settled, right? These past few weeks aren't going to make or break what happens in quarter one. And certainly Falset and Falset's vision card weren't going to be playing into that picture.
Correct.
So they couldn't so to your point of them not wanting people to hoard Visio right now with the new Pack H cycle, that would affect Q2, where Kuja is a big unit coming out. If everybody's already acquired that paid Viz and he comes out, their Q2 is going to be a soft opening at that point. So that I can see kind of playing into that angle, but
Yep.
still, like it's all conjecture at this point. Like we have no idea because like we said, there is no response, there is no statement, there's really radio silence, which it is what it is.
It is. And the quarter to date, people looked at the February numbers, and the February numbers actually weren't that bad for global. We maintained flat at 400,000. And again, that was not including some of the other revenue streams from the like discontinued Amazon services. But it seems like global is not seeing a significant dip in the past couple months, in my opinion. That's one of my burning questions: is that are we so unprofitable, or are we not meeting the margin that they're trying to wind us down? Because this is the fourth conjecture, the big one that a lot of people think, is that this is end of service and that they're slowly winding us down, taking away some of the paid packs, trying to get a little bit of a cash grab quickly with some of these really lucrative deals that, again, I don't think you can debate the value of 2K paid for a 120 unit compared to what you normally spend to 120 that unit. And that could be part of that, where they're winding down service. And I hope that's not the case because I don't think I've seen the huge dip in revenue that would have warranted that. I don't know if maybe this is still planned, but even then, the storyline, although it's progressing, like isn't done. So it's not like the game is like wrapping up, and I see a neat bow where they're going to end it. I mean, maybe they could in JP, but we've heard EOS thrown out many times throughout this game's life, and sometimes it's had reason why people thought so. This is probably just as good as any time. Why you think it could be? I think it's credible to think about that, but I still don't personally see that quite yet. I need to see what to do with Final Fantasy IX to really have some more evidence.
Yeah, I know that some people that are throwing this out are pointing to the similarities with how the sunsetting of FFBE was handled, where there was, though I think in that case there was a complete removal of any paid options, in the game altogether.
Correct.
So I think that is the difference. We are still able to buy in the game, and they are still offering things for that paid viz. It was just at an incredible value that we really haven't seen before. Um, and for me, like I think it's debatable. Like I don't think that this is not possible, but on the other hand, what I would say to kind of debunk this a little bit is it's very strange to me that they would be taking these kind of steps right before a huge like anniversary or huge milestone for the game, where typically that is where you are going to be getting a lot of revenue. Um, and then on the other hand, there are also kind of playing around with the monetization and kind of seeing what sticks a little bit here, which would be kind of very odd behavior for this, for kind of ramping up to this event. So those really don't jive with me with that theory, but I'm not ruling it out entirely.
I agree. I mean, I don't personally predict end of service as of quite yet, and I do think that's a little bit of a self fulfilling prophecy. And by the nature of this being a gotcha game, I don't think it does anyone any favors to talk about it either. Like, you're still putting money into a game that's only pixels with no retaining value. You don't own anything. So, like, by just harping on end of service, it's kind of just like a negative cloud that you keep over it. If you're gonna spend, just spend. We'll talk about this more later, but I don't. I do think it's still premature. I am still curious to see what they do. And even then, I have questions like, all right, end of service for global or for everything, for JP included, because like Road to Worldwide seemingly consolidated those teams that I thought global would be tied at the hip to JP. So is it one, not the other? Like even then, I don't have a strong. I haven't heard anyone give a strong case for.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, we've kind of been steady with the revenue of right around $400,000 via like the sensor tower data for a few months now. And again, that doesn't even count the Amazon purchases, which, you know, Diggs and Orange always harped on that. All the content creators really were hawking that early on, and I know a lot of spenders still use that, myself included. Unfortunately, that is no longer an option, so you have to go through Google and Android now. So we will have kind of a better exact sense of what's being spent in global going forward from Sensor Tower. But to me, like with the very minimal kind of localization they do, the lack of you know team and lack of resources being spent on global at the moment, if you're getting, let's just say that the Amazon spend is like 100,000. I think that's very conservative, but let's just say 100, and we're getting 500K for global. For basically a very minimal like localization, that seems like money in the like printing money at that point. So I don't know why they would want to get rid of that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Totally. Um, but I guess it does beg the question, like, where do we go from here? I know I've places I want the game to go to, what my personal ideal is versus most likely, and I think we could probably touch a little bit about that. Um, like, do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? What's your ideal or my ideal, steady state of the game going forward from here? If you had to pick one.
Yeah, why don't you start off? Because
Yeah.
I was just talking there for a bit.
No, totally. I mean, for me, my perfect ideal steady state of what happens going forward is to keep doing this 2K paid unit and or vision card, and keep the pack H's reserved for the limited time stuff. I do unfortunately, and it's probably gonna get me raked over the coals. I know that's gonna hurt a subset of the community that wants the pack H's every single month so they can have the paid viz to get those other bundles. But I prefer to get the units cheaper and be able to play the units. I think that's a healthier spot for the game and getting people to feel constantly engaged rather than some of these lower spenders to pull a unit once every 3 or 4 months always be behind the meta because they can never get the unit up to speed. Again, there's going to be an asterisk because it's permanent pool versus limited, and 70 cost versus 100 cost. How's that going to factor into the pricing, things like that? But I don't mind the pack H being just for real collabs only, because at the end of the day, it's still going to cost you a fair amount if you want to acquire everything. You're still going to have to dip in and pay it to some degree. And I think that's where you end up getting the pay to win conversation, where that's where your Visior goes to the reincarnations. It goes to acquiring the extra vision cards during these collabs. It goes towards some of the shop bundles that maybe they have that you can get the extra rainbow scrolls and things like that. But I like the idea of giving the units for cheaper. Yes, it does hurt those people hoarding the paid viz for the special banners, but I think Asha might have said it in chat earlier. I wish I had it off the top of my head, but basically that they're making they're making they're increasing the value of paid viz. They're making it more rare by the nature that you're not just going to get it as freely from the package as we're used to, which I don't mind that trade off. Is it most likely? I'm not really sure. I still feel like you could probably still make more money going pack H and just having people buy Viz at rack rates, because I know I still did that. I didn't stop my spending at pack H. I would still buy the rack rate if I needed to get a unit over the hump. That to me is, but the pack H was my toe in the water. I would not buy rack rates for everything in the game. I needed to have an accumulation of paid Viz already to kind of have that devil on my shoulder, be like, oh, you're so close. Just get the little extra, keep it going. But I think I like this, and I think I prefer this for the average player. That at the end of the day, listen, this is a gotcha game in its fifth year, and very few gotchas are free to play. And I think the expectation of this game has never set that precedent that it was a very free to play friendly game. And so I think now, like, I think that's kind of the perfect happy medium, given what I think you're kind of left with for options.
I mean, at this point, it is like a consolidation of the paid viz as well, because obviously, in the prior method, you would be spending with the packages, you're spending $100 to get 12k Visior to buy an unfinished unit
Right.
versus the fall set case, which, okay, I'm going to spend that same $80. I'll get less Visior, but I spend way less Visior to get a finished unit. So the comparison, like the apples to apples comparison, the fall set case is much better value no matter which way you look at it. And because it is a much better value, maybe that is potentially going to tempt some non-spenders if this becomes like the norm. And I can see that maybe potentially happening. I think the drawback, though, is that, for free-to-play folks, there is that loss of the step-up banner.
Absolutely.
So that is going to hurt them a bit. So hopefully, like that, it would come back as well, like during the end of the collabs. I don't want to see that gone, because I think that does hurt those folks too much.
And I agree with that. I do think the step up should be there too. I don't think that is too much to ask. I mean, they're cheaper than the regular banner, but they're not significantly cheaper. Like this, you still spend a ton to pity a unit if you use the I'm sorry, the step up banners, and you have to go to the regular banner to pity the unit after that. Like it's still a pretty big resource suck. And that being said, too, we don't know what they're going to continue to introduce into this game. They were pretty light on the power creep with the commanders, but we're about to enter a new half year anniversary or whatever. Like for all we know, there could be another mechanic in coming year where it kind of changes our perspective on the value of Visior too. I'm not counting that out either.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean, ideally, just to kind of to go back to that point, ideally, I would like to see some version of this continue. Whether it's 2K paid. I was thinking maybe this is going to be like a variable thing, like it's going to go back to like for a collab like big unit, it's going to be the 12k that we had been used to, but for these units that obviously are lesser, um, you know coveted by the player base, that maybe they could reduce them like they did with Falset and O here. I don't know if I would like that necessarily, because it feels like you're kind of getting jerked around a little bit. So hopefully they're going to settle on something that it is some happy medium where they can make money, but it still feels good to the player base. 2K honestly was a steal. I think even 4K is going to feel fair compared to the 12K that we used to spend. If it is a finished unit at that point, where you're not having to then invest further, shards into them. So
Absolutely.
we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, no, and like I said, there's still a lot of things to see unfurl. I know the collab is only one of them, but even then, like, I am curious to see what they continue to do in JP from a unit release standpoint. What's the power creep going to be like speed wise? We were fortunate to have a little bit of a lull here with Falset and Mavia and the Espers and Vision cards, but for all we know, you could get a brand new collab like Final Fantasy VII was last year with Gilgamesh. And I'm not saying you're going to get a huge power creep, but you just get consecutive units in a row that the necessity for Visior is a lot higher because you just need to pull these units to keep up. I think having that 1 month window is still nice. I think we still have advantages for it, and I wouldn't doubt if that played into Gumi's strategy on what they price for us, where they know what we know ahead of time. They get a pulse on the community. They extrapolate based off JP what they're going to happen on global. Like as much as we like to joke that it's a dumb, blind, deaf company, like I guarantee you, there's like metrics and behind the scenes stuff, and Gotcha at this point is kind of like a scientific known of how they abuse players' psychology. It's not like some black box. Like they very well know the spending habits of their consumers, their propensity to spend. They probably have metrics on like what the average player is willing to do, and I'm sure they have 5 years of stats in various capacities on an account level basis where they can probably draw some conclusions. And if not from War of the Visions, they have other games in their library and a whole industry to kind of draw off of. So, as much as we're probably sitting here being like, actually, I don't know where we covered this, but we probably should cover it now. Um, yeah, I don't think we covered this. We kind of said like, oh, there's a big outflow of spenders and a bunch of people going free to play and guilds disbanding and this and that. But a lot of people that I know that said we're quitting the game, they haven't quit the game. They're like actively still playing, and maybe they're not spending this week, but I bet you they spend next month. And I know that Gumi probably has that, you know, ace up their sleeve where they know that too. They know that like, okay, a couple people leave, but the retention rate of many is still high, and we know they're going to spend. They're probably just taking a little bit break. But the player psychology, I think that's still something that we hate to admit about gotcha games, but it's something that's kind of like an undeniable fact.
I definitely think there's some truth to that. I think though that there's also the aspect of routine and getting used to something.
Totally.
And that is a big part of like, even like for spender, even spending becomes routine. Like, okay,
Correct.
I've got X amount of budget this week or this amount per month that I'm willing to spend on the game. And you get into a rhythm of spending that. So, um, I think that despite them having some exceptional deals for spenders with the 2K paid stuff, the fact that it's getting jerked around and there's like a unknown there and there's like the scars of Road to Worldwide and the past stuff, I think there is a big negative impact
Absolutely.
because this is happening that is like a what I call a fumble by the developers because they haven't been upfront and communicated with us. So my kind of fitting into that ideal scenario is I would hope that we can get back to some sort of normalcy, whatever that ends up looking like, and that it is a happy medium, for all involved.
Totally. And I keep using the word scar when I talk about something like this because to me it's like, how can I say this? When I think of like Road to Worldwide, I think of it as like a scar where like it's a visible mark, it's a definitive time period, but it healed and you kept going. It wasn't like I can't believe I'm going down this road of analogies, but it's not like you like lost a leg and like you literally can't walk anymore and you have to get a like. To me, it's like it's a permanent injury, but it's not one that has impeded the player base from continuing to play the game. There's a handful of things we can look back on. Addison Ray collab and Road to Worldwide and Offerwall and a reincarnation, a whole bunch of things that are at this point like scars on the game. But obviously, we all played through it. We kept going. There was always players that left during those periods, but some of them came back and some of them didn't. And I guess the hope at the end of the day is that you never get to a breaking point where people leave. And I think that's where I was trying to get at with the player psychology. That I think that they maybe maybe have a pulse on like how much they can actually push us. And that's why I felt so strongly about taking a content strike, where I'm like, no, this is the line. Like you're crossing the line. I know you can get away with a lot because of how gotchas work, but like we're not okay with this, and we need to do the literal 1% of power that we have to try to let you know it.
Yeah, definitely.
But it does bring us to some hot takes here now, which again, I don't think any of these are going to be stuff that we haven't really touched upon already, but at least in kind of nice and neatly with a bow, like really talk about them in particular. But I think the first hot take here is that end of series is coming soon. Do you think this is a hot take, or do you think this is true?
This is a tough one. It's, I mean, obviously the both of us have always been kind of glass half full and kind of have always typically looked on the bright side. But for me, I don't think this is hot or cold. I think this is somewhere in between for me. And there is a lot unknown that we have touched on and talked about. And what happens, I think, with Dark Leviathan, what happens with Kuja is going to inform this very much for me. So at the moment, I think I'm somewhere in between. I can see it going either way, but I don't feel too strongly in either direction yet at the moment.
I feel the same, and let me get this on here so people can see it. There we go. Um, I don't think EOS is incoming soon. I think if we phrase the question, the likelihood of EOS increased, I think the answer to that is yes. Like, I think there's a small percentage of increased likelihood. But to be fair, we also kind of knew this last year that, like, this game was a little bit on thin ice, that Square didn't get very positive financial results from some of the games. They were pivoting their strategy. We know that the whole live service and gotcha industry is evolving with games like Genshin and Nikkei, and I keep bringing those up, but like they're kind of the staples of how they run. And War Divisions hasn't really adjusted or adopted much of that. That's kind of why I felt the impetus to take a strong stance, because I know that we are kind of on thin ice, and so I never believe that end of series is coming soon. I mean, you can say it as much as you want, you'll be right eventually, no doubt. Like there's going to be a day where it's going to happen. I'm sure some people will be like, "Oh, I knew it," but like the reality is that like people say it all the time in this game, and I don't think it's incoming soon. I think the likelihood of it increased a little bit. This is certainly weird, and certainly pissed some people off, and they lost some dedicated consumers, but I don't think it's unsalvageable. You come out with a great anniversary, another bunch of select tickets like they did for JP, some cool new units that bring everybody back. Maybe it's a banger collab next month that everyone wants to play this collab with these new units. Like, I don't think it's like irreparably damaged. It's really just a matter of what they actually want to do, but I don't think this has much intersection with it.
I mean, I can see a situation where this is very positive. I mean, I think that for spenders in the game, getting full
Yes.
set and the VC was a happy. I think everybody was very happy with that.
Yep.
And if indeed O comes tomorrow and is a free unit that gets given out to everyone, that is something that I think free to play players can be very happy. Not only free to, everybody will be happy about, including free to play, because honestly, he is a solid unit and he is worth building
Mm-hmm.
for free. Maybe not for 40K, but if you're getting him for free, that is a very good and quality unit. So I think that this could be a good thing. But it all just depends on how they play it and what they're kind of saying behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the second hot take. That Pack H being gone is already the dagger. Like, it's we can do what we want, we can glass half full it, but the reputational hit they took, the people that have been free to play these last couple of weeks. I know there's been a couple people that have not been spending out of protest. If this is now the new normal for them, where they have gotten out of that cycle, instead of being just in it the whole time, is this a hot take, or do you think it's true that package being gone already did the irreparable damage?
I don't think it's irreparable damage, but it definitely has done some damage. Um, I I don't think it's irreparable though, because I think that they have built up some goodwill with Final Fantasy Tactics, with Final Fantasy 14, with a well-received fifth anniversary. That there are times, like if they had pulled this crap like right after Road to Worldwide, then yes, absolutely, people would have uninstalled, myself included. but I think they have a little bit of more rope now to do whatever this is that they're doing. Um, it's not unlimited though. I think that they are walking on thin ice with what they're doing at the moment.
I agree, and I think I already gave away my answer to this in the last one, where I don't think this is the dagger. I think you could easily rebound from this. I even think people that have paused on spending could easily get back into spending if they have some really great deals. We saw from the anniversary in September that paid deal with like the select units. All it takes is a couple of those throughout the year, and even people that have gone and come back, they can get caught back up pretty quickly during those time periods. I even think right now in like general PvP and guild senses, we've seen a little more relaxing of how sweaty it is. And so I think that's also kind of good in some respects that people aren't as on edge and then kind of like breathe a little bit, which I do think this helps with. But no, I don't think it's the dagger because they've already given us some good alternative deals for people that want to spend. It's just affecting this different spenders differently. Those that were pulling the units got an exceptional deal. Those that wanted pack H so they could save the paid viz for a later date got the raw end of the stick. I don't think that's going to change it. And if I'm Goomy, I'll be honest, I don't necessarily fault them for that. I don't think that's their intent with the pack H is to like have people hoard all this paid viz to take advantage of it 6 months down the line when they offer these exceptionally broken deals. Like I don't think that's their intent. Clearly, we're kind of unique compared to JP on what it costs, but I don't think this is the dagger.
I know that there was more than a few people who were waiting on that Pack H refresh to finish off some of the Final Fantasy V stuff,
Yes.
um, and that were disappointed that they didn't get that to finish off X Death or Gilgamesh or whatever, or one of the Vision cards or
Can I
whatever
ask
it
though, has there
was.
ever been a package refresh? Two of them during a collab? I don't think there has. So I think even people waiting for that may have been uh
Yeah.
that's
I
not
don't I don't
normal.
know. I can't say that definitively. I don't think so, but it may have happened. But I agree though. I mean, you shouldn't be counting on that so much that you know, but I do know that that did impact some people for sure.
Totally, totally. This is a good one here. This third hot take here is uh you should still put money into the game if you want to. Do you want me to answer this first? Do you have a feeling on this?
Um, I mean, I think this is pretty straightforward. Like, if you're enjoying the game, if you see value in the game, then put money into it. If you don't, then don't. I think, I don't think there's any, philosophical thing here. I think you summed it up pretty nicely earlier when you said that there's never been a good value proposition in this game. You're paying purely for entertainment. We're not taking anything here with us to the grave. Um, so yeah, I mean, even if they announced EOS, if for some reason they still offered something that I saw value in, I would probably still get it, if there was something that was going to, enhance my fun with the game. But yeah, everybody thinks about those things differently.
I totally agree. I never approach a game as if it's end of series until it actually is. I pay for the entertainment. I pay purely for that, and so I think there's nothing wrong with still putting money into the game. It's if you want to. If you see something that you want, it's going to enhance your experience or make your game better for it. I would never discourage anyone to not pay. Even right now, if Pack H was discontinued, like there's nothing wrong with buying the rack rates. We still know whales that do. I just don't think that's fair given the precedent they set over the last year. But I'm not judging these people that are still buying packs at rack rates and buying the units and doing whatever with them. Like we know people that manage two accounts. Well, they do it with one bank account. You know what I mean? Like it's just some people how they play the game. So I would never discourage anyone from spending. I don't think it's a hot take at all to say spend for what you think you'll get out of it, entertainment wise.
Yeah.
This one too. I think we've kind of covered this one, but I think good to kind of hammer home. Uh, 2K paid Viz for permanent pool units and vision cards is better than Pack H was. We kind of outlined some of the pros and cons of this, but uh, I don't mind repeating myself here. I think this is an important thing for people skipping through to hear twice. Do you have a strong opinion on this, or want me to take it first?
Um, I mean, I think it's undeniable that the 2K paid for Falset was is better than what we had with the Pack H situation. Like I said earlier, for $80, you get 5,000 paid and 5,000 free. You can get the unit then for 2K and it's completely finished. Whereas for that same $80 with the Pack H scenario, I was getting a level 1 unit with 200 shards. So, you know,
Yep. Yep.
I think it's undeniable that it was a better value.
And I agree. I do think this is better. And again, this personally aligns with my philosophy of getting people the units faster. The units are the gameplay. The vision cards are the strength of your team, but the actual gameplay is the units themselves. And although you could make the case that like a unit at level 99 is fine for some versus level 140, they do have like ability upgrades at level 140. So I would say that the character is really not in its finished state until they're level 140 where they get that ability upgrade. The stats are one thing, but the ability does kind of change some of how these characters work. And so, yeah, I think getting them faster is overall a net benefit for people staying engaged on a week in and week out basis. You talk about arena and how that resets, and you have bonus units every week. Well, now people can probably play with these bonus units a lot faster because they have them ready the week of. Like, that must suck for people to pull a unit and not be able to use them in arena the week where they're the bonus. They have to like miss that window. I think this is so much better for the actual like week in week out gameplay. And they talk about people getting units for commander abilities, for TMRs. I think there's still upsides for both of those situations too. Where my thing for Falsette, I didn't think she was going to be a great unit, but she's a Guild War gun commander. Gun does not have one. That's an objectively great upgrade for that team. Like that itself, I think is still worth some value. And so I do think this is better. I just think the people that get hurt by this are those that were hoarding the paid viz. And I feel for you guys, but at the same time, like that's probably not their intent. And I think this is still healthier for the actual like gameplay of the game in the long term to get people units faster, make them use their viz
Yeah,
on other things like reincarnations.
I agree with what folks in the chat are saying. This take is pretty cold. I do
Well,
want to.
no, there's some vocal people in Discord though that really are, I know I won't say names because I don't want them to feel called out, but they specifically were on the side of the fence that losing pack H and not having control over your paid viz. Like if you think every week there's new paid bundles, right? That reset, like the small ones, like the rainbow scrolls, things like that. Now those have sucked the last 3 weeks. They've been really bad. But for like
Yeah.
months, some of those daily paid bundles of like select unit shards were incredible. And so people that were getting pack H to buy these like unit selector packs, those people are getting burned hard by this. And so I think that's the glass half empty argument, which I do think has some validity to it, that you no longer get paid viz as easily. And so then again, those packs aren't being offered today. You're not losing out on unit selector packs today. Those haven't been around for the past couple of weeks. So I think that's the other side, which I get. I think that's valid.
Yeah, I can see that, but we just have, like you said, we haven't had those kind of banger deals that you're chomping at the bit to spend paid biz on. Aside from the special banners with false set and her vision card, um, I can't hammer home enough though for the developers or Justin, if you're listening at this point, that as you've been saying, how good it feels to get a completed unit for paid viz when you're spending money in the game, especially not just pulling the unit and spending 40K free. When you're actually putting money down on the line to get the unit, you want that to be a completed unit and be able to use them right away. So I hope, if anything, I hope that that is what stays the most, and I think that people may see better value in that than spending 12K for a level 1 unit, which, despite being better in some cases than putting a bunch of free viz on the line for it, it never exactly felt good, since its inception, I would say.
No, totally. And it's small stuff too, but even getting a level 120 unit, there's some quality of life things of like you don't need to farm JP for that unit to level all their skills. They come Instamax. You don't have to farm the memory shards for them or the whatever, like all those things to level up the unit, doing the stage for their like mastery ability. Well, I guess a new unit wouldn't have that, so I'm sorry. I take that back. Oh no, there's a stage though when you acquire a unit, isn't there, to get their
Yeah,
mastery.
they're
Right.
their first mastery. Yeah.
Yeah, so you skip all of it. So there's like small, even incremental things that you kind of go through the hassle of that we think of routine at this point, but you get a level 120 unit and it's just ready to go out of the box. Very nice.
Yeah. Not to mention all the fragments and stuff, which,
Right.
for veteran players are still a bottleneck for some reason at this point in the game.
Right. I don't have to
You don't have to
use my rainbow
worry about
cubes,
those.
my gold cubes to level them up in
Yeah.
between. All of that's all. Yep. Love it. Totally. But
Maverick says filling out the ability board. Yeah. Click all the way too many clicks to fill that thing out.
it's true. So that's it's kind of those small things that I didn't want to leave unsaid. I don't know if I have a price for them, but it's something that you should recognize when you get a level 120 unit versus a level 1 unit for sure.
I think it's like it's a pulling quality of life at this point for veterans of the game that you're kind of tired of building up you like you said earlier, you just want to put them in and play with them. You don't want to spend the time gardening and building them up over time. So yeah, I hope that stays or some form of it stays.
Totally. But I mean, we laughed, but like I'm at my highest level of Visior in I can't remember how long. I surpassed 40,000 Visior the other day. I can't remember the last time I had 40,000 Visior. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I don't know. Like,
Well, I mean, I think that I mean, same, and I think a lot of people can probably say that they've been saving a lot with skipping Mavia, skipping Falset, and these vision cards, Dad Bomb that really have no inkling on the meta. Um, so yeah, I think if you think about that, it gives a lot of ammo to the theories we were talking about earlier with them kind of jumbling and shaking things up here because they know that people weren't going to be pulling on this stuff.
totally. But that is technically all we had for our topic lineup. I mean, I think we've been trying to address some of the questions as they popped up in chat, some of the opinions. I don't think we've necessarily missed anything yet, but I know we that's kind of the short and sweet. We wanted to keep with this tonight. Really keep it focused on. Oh my God, Xerxes, you're an hour and minutes late, buddy. We're just wrapping this up. I think you'll have to watch the replay, but I think we said everything we wanted to say. I think gave our opinions on it. I think these are fair opinions. I'm still very eager to keep playing this game. I mean, I guess to kind of like again pat them on the back a little bit. We're getting limited guild war with the new reserve system. I'm looking forward to that. We just had a pretty successful grand arena where a lot of people really had fun using the MR rarity units, and they just announced they're doing another one where they penalize 100 cost units to disincentivize the usage of them. We had Supremacy, which was a super fun one, at least for us and Howl, but I know even the rest of the top end really liked it. I still think the meta is in like one of the healthiest spots it's been in a while. Mont is obviously still very strong and one of the more popular like correlating units to winning at the moment, but there's still so many variations of like meta teams with evasion and missile and mono fire and Shrek death, and there's still some units like Gilgamesh and all these different supports that you can use. That I think the game is like in a really great spot still. That's why I like don't want this game to slow down. And now you're getting O to like help some of the kill off the remnants of Sephiroth. I would hope at this point, maybe a little bit of Gilgamesh. I know at the top end we likely will.
Giving out O is reparations for putting Resnick and Sephiroth into the game.
Right, right. Like maybe that's the way to help. We talk about how Global has more of a bias toward Fire because of it. Maybe like this is their way to like correct us a little bit.
Sorry about curse, guys.
Yeah, again, that's why I wanted to still give credit where credit's due. I still think things are great. There's still more we want them to do between public communication, but that's not their mo. So I don't I'm not holding them to the fire for it, even though I wish they did. Obviously, kind of miss a little bit of the live streams. They got pretty good at that for a while, but I know Justin and friends and I was featured. You were featured on another one, but even then, like I don't know if live streams really make or break the game. I just know it's more of like a signaling thing that all is well in the world when they can dedicate that little bit of manpower. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I hope that we get to this anniversary. I mean, because this would be a big one. It's the unofficial global fifth anniversary. Hoping we'll make it there and that we can, get to the other side strong. I do think that it would go a long way to have some communication and statements from the company here leading up to that. because I think that some of these deals that they've been putting in could be spun in a pretty positive light. But you do need to have some interaction and some follow up. So hopefully we'll see some of that kind of going into the next weeks.
Same. And honestly, I'm looking forward to getting the Leonis support back every Monday, and I'm looking forward to doing content. I'm not there yet. I'm literally just, and for anyone wondering where my line is, again, I think it's Final Fantasy IX. I just really need to see what they do with these limited uh, collabs. Do we get Pack H? Is there a different spending or is there a different cost to acquire these units? Like Kuja and his vision card, are they 2K paid? That would be insane if you get Kuja for 2K paid. I don't know what to think of if that like is a thing or if it just reverts, but that's to me like where you're going to kind of see where the new normal is. And even then that might not tell me the whole story because we don't know what the permanent pool units are going to do after this with Karsha and more coming out, who's an exceptionally cool Pierce tank. Are they going to give her out for 2K paid? So those are some of those things where like I just need a little bit bigger of a sample size to know that this is not just a one-off of fall set. But again, if the team is listening, like you have me halfway convinced. I just need to see this continue a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean that's I think we're gonna get our first inklings of what happens with this with Dark Leviathan, like we said earlier, because that obviously was, a pretty big ticket item, and Kuja kind of following it up. So, I think we're gonna know in short order, kind of, what the new normal, is, so to say.
Totally. But I got nothing else. That's everything I wanted to say. I don't know if you have any other closing thoughts you want to leave off here, but
I don't think so. It felt good to kind of get back to it. We've been so steady with this for so long that it was weird kind of taking a couple of weeks off, but love to see the engagement in the chat. Sorry we didn't we kind of had a heavy conversation, so we didn't dive too much into the comments, but thank you all for being here and participating and you know being part of the community, and you guys coming and hanging out is one of the best parts of doing this. So thank you.
couldn't agree more. Appreciate the feedback. We are the game. We do content for you guys as well. Like that's literally my whole motivation. I know it was for you too. It's just to really maximize the gaming experience, and so that's all we ever wanted. We love this game, want to keep it going, and hope you can too. If our words have done anything to give you a positive spin on the situation, I'll be happy for that because I know it can be tough to find some of the light at the end of the tunnel. But thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you for those watching back at a later time, and hopefully we'll have more for you soon. I am looking forward to making content again for sure.